On today's Newsmakers, we're talking with Olympic silver medalist MyKayla Skinner Harmer, who is joining us to explain why she's defending women's sports and backing former competitive swimmer Riley Gaines. With no further ado, here is MyKayla.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join me. There's a lot to talk about. Obviously, you've been in the headlines over really commenting and supporting Riley Gaines in the midst of the dispute that she had on X with Simone Biles. And you have a whole history with Simone as well, being a former teammate on the gymnastics team and so much more. So we'll get into some of that. But, what were your thoughts when you initially saw the back and forth that went viral before you even spoke out, between Riley and Simone?
Yeah, it was hard to see. I mean, being a big supporter of Riley Gaines, obviously I haven't really said anything till now just because it can be scary and to speak up and to have a voice, right? But I have always loved what Riley has stand for. And, just seeing the bullying, the belittling, it just really hit close to home because I had experienced the same thing Riley had, last year. And so I knew what she was going through, and I figured that this was the time that I could stand up and be an advocate for people that have been bullied. And also, for the whole transgendering in women's sports, that's something that I really want to be an advocate for. So I just kind of felt like this was the right time to do that and, kind of just stand up for what I believe in.
Yeah, well, and I want to get into your experience too, but just for those who don't know, and I think most people do because it did go viral, Riley was commenting on a softball team where there was a, transgender player. It was a kids team, a young people's team. And there was this player. And so Riley was commenting on that, as she often does. And then Simone was responding to that, really some pretty harsh comments, but one of the things that caught a lot of attention was comparing Riley to a man, right? Mm-hmm. Essentially, which I think that was the thing that shocked people to see, because it's one thing to have a disagreement over an issue. It's another thing to compare, a female to a man. So I think when people saw that, they were shocked by it. And when you saw that, let's get into some of your past. I mean, I'm going to let you explain it because obviously you went through what you've described as a fair bit of bullying. There were even death threats involved and a whole lot more. Take us through some of that, because I would imagine it was a little triggering to then see this interaction happen online with Riley and Simone.
Yeah. I mean, seeing that whole tweet thing go on, it was literally flooding back so many memories to last year. So I always wanted to do sports broadcasting, never really had the opportunity to after I graduated from the University of Utah. I got pregnant right after school. I was really sick my whole pregnancy. And so I kind of just dived into being a full-time mom. So my husband, was working and I got to spend time with my daughter, and it's seriously been so much fun. And when the Olympics came up, it had been, 3 years since I competed. And I love gymnastics. I love talking about it. I've been in the sport for a long time. It was my life. And we decided to do a YouTube live. We had posted a poll asking people if they kind of would want to do kind of me commentating, but just kind of hanging out, having fun, chatting on a YouTube live of Olympic trials, because most countries couldn't even get it streamed. They couldn't watch it till, I guess, a few days later and stuff. So they were so excited to pop on and hear me commentate while they couldn't watch it. So I was just kind of giving some updates on gymnastics. And anyway, it was so much fun. Everybody loved it. And they were like, oh my gosh, you need to do another one of these during the Olympics. And then we decided to do a YouTube video just doing a little recap of Olympic trials and how it went. And obviously, me being in the gymnastics world, I know that a lot of followers, follow me for gymnastics, but we also have a lot of followers that don't. And so, I kind of was just talking about a few different things, things that I had been through as an elite gymnast and how things have changed now, and for the better. And it was just crazy because in that short 15-minute video, I did talk a lot about how amazing the team was, and I was so supportive, and me and my daughter were so excited to watch the Olympic team, and they're going to go out there and crush it. We're just so excited for them. And, those girls are, really close friends of mine, and I had been teammates with most of them. And it was just crazy because, they take one little clip from the video and twist it to where it made me seem like, I was this horrible person. And that was not my intentions at all. Like, I would never just go on a YouTube video and, cut down my team. Like, I know they're amazing athletes, and I've been there, I've done it, I know what it takes to get there. And so it was really sad because they took that clip, and I remember I was just folding laundry one day, and all of a sudden my phone's just like boop, 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 boop. Like, I'm like, oh, what's popping on Twitter? X, now it's X. And I was like, what's popping on X? And so I opened my phone, and it was just like, my heart just starts racing, and it's just like all these horrible comments, just boom, 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 boom. And then it was just crazy because my husband was like, it's okay. Like, you've had hate before. Like, it'll be okay. You did nothing wrong, whatever. And I was like freaking out because I'm like, no, this just isn't good. I don't know what I did, and things just started spiraling very quickly. And then it was crazy because, Simone had posted a tweet saying not everybody needs a mic and a platform. And so then that kind of started a wave of more people attacking. And then it was 4th of July, and I'd gotten a text from Simone. We had a personal conversation. Seemed like things were okay. I even, wanted to send a personalized text to all the girls that had made the Olympic team. I didn't have one of the girls' phone numbers because I had never been teammates with her. I didn't really know her, and she had made the Olympic team. And so I asked Simone, hey, do you have her number so I can reach out? And she says, yes. And she said that she was so proud of me for reaching out to the girls. And, in the previous text that she had sent me, she told me that she loved me and, she was proud of me. And so I kind of thought the heat of things was died down. We were on okay terms. I had sent those texts out to those girls, and it was really sad because I never got a response, which I totally get, but also was just very sad. And then, things kind of seemed to get better. I was doing okay at this point, still not the best, but then I was sitting on a plane heading to a gymnastics camp to go coach for a couple of days. And we were sitting on the airplane watching the Olympic team. They were streaming it, so I was able to watch team finals. And we're sitting on the plane with my husband and my daughter watching it. And then I get to the camp, and then that night I get back to my room, and Simone had made the tweet. I forget exactly what it says, but, like lazy, whatever. She was basically coming at me in her caption when they had just won the Olympic team. And that, really stabbed me in the heart. That hurt so bad, like.
Because you thought you were on good you thought you had cleared this up.
Yeah, I thought.
And then it was brought back up.
Yeah, and then it was like another stab. Like, how do we do this again? I'm like, how could this even happen? And
Did you reach out to her at that point?
I didn't. I honestly didn't even know what to say because I'm like, well, maybe this doesn't have anything to do with me. Obviously it did, but I was kind of hoping like maybe this is just in general. I don't really know. And then I just started getting attacked even more, and it just like broke my heart because I was like, this is a time where you are supposed to like represent your country and be excited that you guys won team, and then you're bringing me into it, and it just made me so sad. Like, I love the Olympics, and like it just crushed my dreams because it like made me feel like I never want to watch the Olympics again. Anyway, so that whole caption came out, and then it was crazy because they started, twisting my words, and more stuff started coming out. And then I'm trying to remember what the other thing was. Oh, it was their team name, F around and find out. That wasn't funny either. And so then there was like another jab, and then it was just like another thing after one thing after another. And it just like wasn't stopping. And then, they'd gotten on their social medias and started talking about me and just all these things.
When you say they, the player, the team. And then so they're doing that. How is the rest of the world? And this is where the other issues come in, right? Because all those comments you were getting the first time, And, by the way, for you to say you had the feeling of not wanting to even watch, you're a silver medal. You've won a medal in the Olympics, right? I mean, that says a lot about what that must have felt like. So what is the rest of the world doing? How are people responding to that sort of attention now that's been renewed on you at that point?
Yeah, it literally was awful. I had a lot of support behind the scenes, but I think that's the hard thing too is a lot of people were scared to speak up or stand up because they were going to get cut down. So I was feeling a lot of support on my end and from my friends and family, but my mental health was not at a good place. Like I was starting to get dermatitis all over my face. I couldn't function. I couldn't take care of my daughter at the time. Like I literally just felt like I was in a black hole, wasn't present with my family. And it took me a really long time to get out of that because people are just so quick to judge. And I'm like, you guys don't see both sides of it. Um,
And
and I
also,
just
even if
trying
you
to
had made
cut.
a mistake,
Right.
in some way in your language or what you said, or anybody who's done media at all, hello, I know this, and you have a camera on you, and you're saying things. You
Yeah.
may, even if that had happened, where is the grace for people to sort of move, especially if it's true that you've reached out and you've apologized and you've had a conversation, with at least one person there. Why that would continue to be brought up is very strange to me.
Right. Right. I still ask myself the same thing every day. And like, I don't know why it had to keep going. I don't know why this had to happen. Like, it was really an awful experience to go through. And, again, just like I would never want to attack those girls. I love them so much. They're amazing, incredible athletes. And so it's still sad to this day because I don't have, relationships with them. And I hope maybe one day we can again. And it's sad because I tried publicly apologizing 3 different times, and it's just sad because, it's like, I just feel like we make mistakes, right? I could see how the girls could be offended and get their feelings hurt. That's totally fine and totally normal. But I feel like the biggest thing is the best way to move on is when you forgive. And I don't know if that just comes from being religious and having God in my life, but like I've gone through so many trials, and I feel like, when you repent and you become closer to God, I just feel like life gets easier, life gets better, you're able to move on. And that's kind of how I've been able to cope with all of this. And I know that God knows my heart and knows my intentions. And so I just have to remember that at the end of the day that, like they can think what they want, but like I know what I meant and I know what I said. And yeah, it's just really devastating
Yeah.
that I may
How
not
long did that go on for? How long did the abuse go on for from people online?
months. I was
Months.
off of
Wow.
social media for at least 4 months. I thought I would never come back. And I said, you know what? Like, I'm not going to let these people ruin my life. Like, I'm a great person. I'm a great friend. I'm a great wife. I'm a great mom. And they're not going to determine, the rest of my life. And I've been through things before being, a high level athlete at a really young age. You kind of get thrown into the public eye. And it's hard when you're young because you make mistakes, you say stupid things, but it's kind of like gymnastics. If we never made mistakes, how would we grow as a person? How would we become better, right? Um, so I just try to look at, the bright side of things and just try to move forward and just be the best that I can be. Um,
Can I
yeah,
ask you one more thing about? So you put a plea out at one point. Correct me if I'm wrong. To Simone, saying, "Can you please have your followers stop because there were death threats
yeah.
and some very serious things that were happening in the mix of this." Did you ever get a reply to that? Was there ever any response, reaction, any attempt that you saw of
No,
her to ask them to stop?
no, not at all. And that's kind of what hurt a little bit too with when, she came out and had apologized to Riley and had her statement is it was like, I've known Simone since I was 13. And the fact, like she could step up and, say an apology to Riley, but I got nothing. Kind of hurt, because I'm like, I've known Simone forever. Like she sent me a baby gift, when I gave birth to my baby. We've had very many texts, and Simone and I have been really close. Like we haven't been like, super buddy buddy, but we've had a really close relationship, and we have texted from time to time. And I was texting her all about her wedding, and there were so many great memories too, right? Like we did have great times. But there just has been so many times where, I've been bullied, and belittled by her throughout my career. And I've just, tried to push through it and stay strong. And I'm like, everybody makes mistakes, and, we just got to be better. But to
Yeah.
see that it's just continuing and continuing and continuing is what's really hurting me. And it needs to end. We need to put a stop to bullying,
So when you saw kind of bringing it back to Riley, that interaction, obviously everything you just described, you had that experience, and you obviously felt it was important in that moment to speak up and stand forward and say, hey, I want to defend Riley on this. And so that is a scary thing, because this issue, I think what's happened with the transgender sports issue is that a lot of people agreed and felt the same way, but they were afraid to say it. People
Mhm.
like Riley have been willing to come forward. And even Riley was hesitant in the beginning of her journey, right? Knowing how that went. So, how have people reacted to you stepping forward and speaking out on this?
I knew with me coming out with this, it took a lot of time for me to think about it if I even wanted to say anything. And it felt right. I felt like I needed to. Riley's given me the courage and the strength to do it. She's gotten a lot of hate through her career in this, and I knew that that was going to happen to me. But honestly, I've seen so much positive and so many people reaching out and saying, "I'm so glad that you're supporting, women in sports," and that literally makes me so happy, because at this point, like, I've always felt like I wanted to do good, and I didn't know how to go about it. Being in the gymnastics world, like, I've always been scared to, like, support or stand for things that I believe in, because I don't want to get attacked, like Riley has. Um, but I feel like this has been a great opportunity for me to be able to come out, support what I believe in, and yeah, I'm just so grateful that I'm able to do it. Even though that there has been hate, there's been so much positive, and with that positive, it wants me to, like, keep going, keep fighting, and keep doing good, for women sports, for athletics. I have a daughter now, that's 21 months, and we do a mommy and me gymnastics class, and I want her to have the best career in athletics. Maybe she might not go that route, but if she does, like, I want her to have every opportunity to succeed and for things to be fair. Like, I got
Yeah.
to have that, and I want her to have that.
Well, and as hard as what you went through was, and as horrific as it was, it may have prepared you for the moment of being able to step out, right? Because you've kind of
Right.
been through the worst of that, and now you can come forward and talk about the issues that matter. On this sports issue, it is really remarkable to me. I look at things through different lenses. I'm a Christian first, right? So that's where I look at everything through that. And then I try to look at things through other lenses, and I try to understand. But when you see this issue, it seems implicit. It seems so common sense that there's a fairness issue here, right? It feels also, though, like there's a big effort to pretend that there aren't differences between men and women when it comes to physicality, and when it comes, I mean,
Right.
which there clearly are. You are an Olympian. You have been in athletics your entire life. Why do you think people struggle so much with the reality of those differences, and why is it so important, as somebody who has been all the way to the Olympics and been victorious, for this issue to be remedied and fixed?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy being able to step into this world. It's a tough world that, things are changing very quickly, and I think it's so important that we can, fight against this. And, when I do anything with my husband, he's always beating me, right? And I'm like, it's just not fair. But then I'm like, well, it makes sense. You're bigger than me. He's 6'7". He's super fit. And yes, sometimes, I might win here and there, but it like I would not want to go, you know, play basketball with him. He's gonna beat me. I don't want to go run him in track because he can run super fast. I can't. I have short little legs. So there's just so many differences, that I see in day to day life, right? Just, being with my husband, and, I wouldn't want to step up next to a male athlete in gymnastics. The stuff they're doing is just, it's insane. I'm like, there's no way I could do that. I couldn't do, the rings, even just watching my nephew in gymnastics at such a young age, the stuff he's doing is insane. Like, I would never, be able to do that because I'm not built that way. So I don't know. I just really hope that, with what Riley's doing, me being able to, stand by her side and help her with this. I really hope that we can make a difference and, put this to an end so that, we can have the fairness in sports that, we deserve as women. We work really hard too. And I just think that's really important that, we get to go out there and be the best athletes that we can be and, feel good in our own skin.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does feel like public opinion has shifted a lot on this, and people are at least more willing to openly share what they believe. And the majority of the country has made it clear from what I've seen in polling that they do not think that biological men should be competing with women. I mean, this seems to be something that does resonate with the public and people understand. And that's just, we're talking about the competition. We're not even getting into locker rooms and all the other factors that come along with this. It's a whole other
about it
thing. Yeah. I mean, I have two daughters, right?
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah. When I read and listen to that stuff, it's that I couldn't even imagine going through that. I'm like, being a college athlete, being an Olympian, like I couldn't imagine being in the same dressing room as a male, especially having a husband. Like there were girls when I competed at the University of Utah that were married. And so I'm like, I couldn't imagine, them having to be in the same locker room, undressing in front of them. You know what I mean? Like it's just, It's not okay. I don't think it's healthy for anybody to go through that or to have to deal with it, right? That some of these college athletes have had to deal with it. And I can't even imagine.
So, okay, final question for you, and I so appreciate all your time here. And the purpose of this discussion was not to bash anybody, and I don't think at all that it came across that way. I do want to ask you, if you had Simone in front of you right now and you had a chance to speak to her or give a message to her or communicate with her, what would you say to her?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I mean, honestly, I don't even know if I'd have words to say. At this point, I don't even think I would want to amend things. I have been, so broken by her in so many ways. And I will cherish the great times that we had together, at the Olympics. That was a really tough time for me, and thinking I was going to go home and, I did get that opportunity to go and compete and win a silver medal because she, couldn't compete. So I did get that opportunity, and she was, very nice to me and supportive in ways. But she also has done a lot of damage and a lot of hurt. And at this point, I wish her the best, but it's time for me to move on with my life and to be happy. And, I don't need friends that are going to, belittle me and hurt my feelings in any way. So, I'm just going to keep taking it one day at a time, and, she can do her thing and I'll do my thing.
Well, I so appreciate you taking the time joining us today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all for today's Newsmakers. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for another episode. We'll see you then.